Hi, I'm Raghu Kamath and today we are going to illustrate a lemon slice in Krita. This is a simple tutorial meant to get you to create something in Krita while learning. The goal here is not to make the coolest illustration, but to learn Krita while creating something along with me. So feel free to pause the video and go back and forth while you draw. Without further ado, let's get started. First we need to create a new document. For that we can press the new file button here on the welcome screen, or you can also use the shortcut Ctrl N. Create new document dialog will be opened. In the image size, I will use a predefined template, film 4:3 4K, and I'll change the resolution to 300, or you can use 150 as well. Hit create. So for a lemon slice we would obviously need a circle. So I'll choose the ellipse tool here in the toolbar and I'll go to the tool option docker here. If this docker is not enabled by default for you, you can go to settings, dockers and choose tool options. In the tool option docker, I will select fill to foreground color and outline to brush background color. The fill will be the pulp of the lemon slice and outline will be the outer skin. So for the pulp, I need to change the foreground color. We will change the foreground and background color by clicking on these squares here. I'll click on the white one to change the foreground. Foreground is the pulp, so I'll use a bit of greenish yellow here, slightly darker. That seems right. Okay, and for the background, that is the outer skin, I'll choose more reddish yellow color, a bit darker. Yeah, that seems right. Press OK. And now with the ellipse tool selected, I'll draw a circle. I'll simply draw an ellipse by clicking and dragging on the canvas. I'll hold shift to make it a perfect circle. Then to place it in the center, I'll move the circle by pressing and holding Alt as well. This seems to be center, a bit smaller. The size of the ellipse can be 1/3 of the canvas. Okay. Now we will choose the contiguous selection tool. In other applications, this tool will be known as magic wand. I'll click on the greenish yellow color and then I'll go to select menu, shrink selection. We need to shrink the selection by about 15. Okay. Again I'll go to select menu and click on border selection. The value can be 15 again. Okay. I'll click on this plus icon here in the layer docker and create a new layer. And I'll just go to the foreground color selector. I need a creamish color to mark the partition between the skin and the pulp. So I'll go to HSV. Maybe reduce the saturation by 30, value 100. Okay, and I'll fill the selection by pressing shift and backspace. Add one more layer by clicking on the plus icon. You can also use the insert key on the keyboard. And from the brush preset docker, I'll choose a brush called basic 5 size. And we will switch to the multi brush tool. It is the lesser known twin brother of the brush tool, except that it can spawn as many twins as you want. The keyboard shortcut for the multi brush tool is Q, or you can also press the icon on the toolbar here. And with the multi brush tool selected, I'll go to the tool option docker. Here we will choose snowflake as the type and I need 6 brushes. The lemon will have 10 to 12 segments, so 6 will be enough. And I'll check the show origin box. It will show the segments here. If you notice that the center is not matching with the center of the circle, just move it by clicking on this origin move button and then clicking and dragging on the canvas here. That seems fine. Now I'll just paint over these guidelines here. We don't want to make it too thick, as it is not an orange but a lemon. I'll just add in a bit of curve here like this. and I'll then switch to the brush tool. I have made some mistakes here, so I'll erase the unwanted part. I'll press E to convert my brush into an eraser and erase the unwanted parts like this. Also, if it is too thick, I'll just erase it. That will also break the perfectly symmetrical lines. I'll press E again to switch to normal brush mode. Fill in some color here. Maybe make some more curve here to break that symmetry. So talking about symmetry, we also need to make this outer ring a bit less circular. So I'll just switch to the paint layer 1. I'll hold down Ctrl and click to color pick this color, and I'll just paint here. I'll just draw along the outer edges like this, and for this inner circle I'll choose a different brush called Blender Blur. I can type in Blender, choose this brush. The icon is like a Q-tip, and by selecting the layer with the partition here, I'll just merge some of that edge here like this. Then I'll remove this filter and choose basic 5 size opacity brush. I'll color pick this lighter color, and I'll just paint some dabs of brush here. Just put some dots along the edge here like this. Again, I'll color pick the outer color and I'll put some circle inside to get that texture like this. Now I'll add a new layer above our base circle. With the same brush, I'll color pick our greenish yellow color. I'll press K to darken the color a bit, and I'll switch to the multi-brush tool again. We are going to paint the vesicles that form the pulp of the lemon. You have to just add in some ellipses here, kind of like small beads. The outer portion will be a bit darker than the center. I'll press K again to darken the color, and now I'll just add a few lines here and there. If you want, you can go a bit more dark by pressing the K key, and now I'll press the H key to show my color history, and I'll click on the lighter color here. I'll again press L to lighten the color, and I'll add in some strokes like this. This will add the highlight to those beads. Now I'll switch to the brush. I notice that some of these partitions are too thick. I'll press and hold the R key on the keyboard and click on it. It will automatically select the layer which is beneath it. I'll switch to eraser mode and erase the lines a bit like this. I'll switch to normal mode and I'll paint over the edges here to soften them a bit. Now I want to add overall highlight and shadows. So I'll click the layer with our base circle here. I'll switch to the contiguous selection tool, click on the center. So I'll switch to the gradient tool by pressing G on my keyboard, or you can press the icon here in the toolbar. I'll go to the tool option docker and select shaped gradient. I'll color pick a darker color from here. Press K once or twice to make it darker and drag a gradient from the edge here. It will add a darker color. I'll switch to a radial gradient and I'll pick a lighter color from the center here. Just add a gradient by dragging from the center towards the outer edge like this. Then Ctrl Shift A to deselect. So we need more highlight, so I'll add a new layer at the top here, and I'll switch to the brush tool and I'll press D on my keyboard to reset my foreground and background color. Again I'll press X to switch the background and foreground color. It will turn the foreground color to white, and I'll paint in some broad strokes here. I can also switch to multi-brush tool to make it easier. Switch to brush tool again. I'll reduce the opacity of that layer to somewhere around 50%. I also noticed that there is some symmetry here, so I'll just add a new layer and color pick and paint over it. Now we need to add seeds, so I'll pick a darker color, hit K to make it more darker, switch my brush to basic 5 size and draw some seeds here. Again I'll pick a lighter color and paint inside the seed so that it looks like it has been cut. Okay, I see some green leaking through the edges here, so I'll switch to a basic 5 opacity brush, and in the topmost layer I'll just paint some more. Like this. Okay, so now our slice is ready. I'll just select all the layer by clicking on the first layer here and holding down shift and clicking on the last layer here, and then I'll press Ctrl E to merge everything into one layer. Now to make this some more interesting, let's add a drop shadow. I'll right click on the paint layer here and click on layer styles. I'll enable the drop shadow effect, and for the shadow I'll choose a bluish color. The value can be somewhere around here. That seems okay. I'll reduce the opacity to 30% maybe. I want the angle to be here 75. This is too close, so I'll increase the distance to somewhere around 55. Okay. I'll increase the spread to 20 maybe. The size can be somewhere around 35. It will soften the shadows a bit. That seems okay to me. Press OK. Now this slice feels a bit lonely, so let's add one more. I'll just press Ctrl and J on my keyboard to duplicate it, and I'll press T to activate the move tool. You can also press the move tool icon here in the toolbar. I'll just move this duplicate aside here. Now I'll press Ctrl R to enable the rectangular selection tool here and select half of the slice here, and then I'll press the drop down button here beside the plus icon and add a transparency mask. It will hide the other side of the lemon. I'll select the base layer and go to the drop down and add a transform mask. I'll hit Ctrl T and I'll just rotate this a bit and bring it down here somewhere. Press enter. Now I notice that we have not yet saved our document, so let's save it by pressing Ctrl S. Let's type in lemon.kra, hit save. It is wise to keep saving your document often. So we are almost done with our lemon slices here, but I noticed that the shadow is overlapping here. So I'll choose a softer brush here, basic tip default or basic tip Gaussian. You can choose any one of them, and I'll add one more layer above this copy. Switch to brush tool. I'll color pick this color from here and I'll just paint here like this. So that's it. So now our background seems a bit bland and boring, so let's add some texture there. Again I'll click on the drop down beside the plus icon here and click on fill layer. I'll be not adding a color but a pattern, something that looks like a tissue paper, maybe paper torch on. That is okay. Go to transform section. Maybe I'll increase the scale to 140 or maybe 150, and I'll just change the angle to 15. Press OK, and I'll just reduce the opacity to 5% or 10% maybe. Now the texture is applied over the slices too. I need to remove the texture that is over the lemon slices. So what I'll do is I'll add a transparency mask to this fill layer. So I'll hold down Ctrl and Shift key on my keyboard and click on the layer thumbnails of both the slices. That will give us a combined selection. And then I'll select the fill layer and I'll invert the selection by Ctrl Shift I, and I'll right click, add transparency mask. It seems good, but to make it more interesting, I'll add one more layer. Choose basic 5 size brush, switch to white color, and then I'll paint in some water droplets here and some more highlight here on the vesicles. Seems a bit too much, so I'll erase some of it. So this is it, a lemon slice in Krita. I hope you learned something new today. Do share the lemon slices that you made or any other suggestion for this video in the comments. And I hope to bring some more of these draw along type tutorials soon. See you again soon, and thank you.